Hello? For today's challenge, we revisit the 2008 evolution game, Spore. I was intrigued by the so-called pitiful worm challenge, a run whose completion I saw from another YouTuber named KinglyValence. Playing the game without evolving is difficult enough already, but doing so with a vegetarian species is perhaps the only thing more masochistic. Our species consists of a torso and a mouth. That's it. Many and various deaths await you if you try this start. I won't be speedrunning it, but there are other crazy people out there that do this kind of thing for fun. Join me as we embark on another outstandingly painful, cathartic journey of personal transformation. We spawned into the normal game world as an herbivore, yet endowed with features not allowed by this challenge. So after being brutally murdered, I ate 10 plants and acquired enough DNA points to call a mate and reformat my species to the pitiful worm. Both the flagella and the eyeball are removed, and what remains are merely the body and the mouth, that one orifice that must remain in order to grow. The remaining funds were $35. I selected the tranquil color of blue for my species, and began the true adventure. The cell stage is normally a fun period of cutting off other species and monstrously devouring them, just before they consume that last bite of life-saving salad that would have enlarged them just enough to escape devourment. This time I was confined to a dark black circle of enfeeblement. The only thing that kept me going were my aspirations at titanic proportions, constant there at the forefront of my attention. Without sight or the ability to at least swim fast, your existence is torture, much like my own life. Any species that you encounter is just death. If you see movement, run in the opposite direction. The cell stage is a testament to the value of hard work. Plainly put, billions of years of banging your head against a wall, as it turns out, works. For every 999 times I was devoured, that made the one time I ate food so much more a triumph. The only possible way to overcome is to grow and outlast. But after 3 hours of suffering, we advanced toward the creature stage, obtaining the achievements of both pacifism and completing the cell stage on hard mode. Despite every death, every sacrifice, it made them all worthwhile in that noble escape from the primordial soup. The pitiful worm resumed its journey onto land, enlarged but still completely the same. Chapter 2, the creature stage. Everyone else likes the creature stage except for me, and I'm sick of hearing about it. You're wrong, it's a bad stage. You spend most of your time running around and singing to other species you don't want to be friends with. By the time you actually meet some cool friends, they go on to jump you for no reason, murdering you and your family. Except this time, we are not only limbless, but also legally blind, lying to everyone and then murdering them with an antenna. You get DNA points, sure, but you're killing enemies only to spite them, and you can't even eat their corpses after you're done. Darwin would find our evolutionary methods both baffling and disturbing. Nonetheless, there are some hacks to get through. Eating other species' eggs, only to be deleted seconds later, is a decent way of getting DNA points during this stage. But after about 4 hours of banging my head against a wall, it was impossible to leave the nest. Every other species wanted to destroy me. I was like a worm attempting to outrun a cheetah. I began resorting to outstandingly cheap tactics, like pushing the baby version of an allied species closer to my nest so that I could murder him quietly. It just works. I began acquiring DNA that, admittedly, I did not deserve. Dear God, I hated every second of this stage, but I get it. At least you get to experience color and legs. I don't want to dwell on it too much, though. Chapter 3, the tribal stage. Ah, the tribal stage. Admittedly, somewhat underwhelming this time around. But that didn't stop us. Led by fearsome chieftain Agritile, wily Smedent, humble Sendin, Lisbeth, Mards, and who could forget Baby Chlol. We embarked on the snailish process of gathering fruit. The finest fruits were plucked, and then despite physical limitations, Chieftain Agritile began to perform his arousing, thrusting present dance to tease the nearby tribe. He confidently strutted his way into their base with selfless presence of food, dissolving any bad feelings or awkwardness that might have existed from millions of years of coevolution. Though lacking in physical utility, we were outstandingly persuasive and intelligent, able to domesticate even animals that looked admittedly far more evolved than us. Life was good. Until we were massacred. We were forced to simply watch and promise our marauders presence in the future if they stopped laying siege to our home, while desperately failing to get past them in order to extinguish the blaze. We tried again, now with yet even more pitiful worms thrusting their maracas, didgeridoos, and wooden pipes toward the aspiration of friendship with local tribes. Merriment and gaiety abounded. Yes, the whole tribe bounced and thrusted with majesty as our number of homies grew. Things were so good that we weren't even upset when one of our nearby allies began sacrificing their own people to a giant. Everyone loved us and celebrated and complimented us for being us. I should say, Spore also has a lot of amazing features, like being able to change the graphics settings midway through birthing another baby tribe member, which made our progress even faster, shadier, and more questionable. It seemed as though nothing could impede our progress. We ended the tribal stage confident and bristling with purpose, onward toward civilization. Chapter 4. The Civilization Stage. Billions of years in the making, the penultimate stage everything has been leading up to. We erect a series of cylinders to assert the dominance of our effigy upon the face of the world and its cultures. After an outburst of pictographic shouts, we light some fireworks and establish civilization. Celebration and gallivanting is had by all in the streets, and cries of jubilation ring out, all the way up to the spice geysers, toward which we race in our cars. Gradually. Our buildings are what some would call lacking in beauty, but we aren't about to let others or aesthetics impede our glorious, triumphant progress toward enlightenment. We start off weak, and we have to give everything up to forge alliances with those that are stronger, but we are so convincing in our zeal for charity and religion. We manage to divert multiple wars by complementing their society's dictators, and subvert the normie methodologies of war by sending swarms of worm cars to convert falling cities to our religion, literally bombing ourselves with love, turning bloodshed into devotion. And then right before we've converted the entire world to our religion, the goddamn Soviet Union decides to come in and run its tanks on us. We start over again, this time slithering as quickly as possible to spice geysers, claiming a coastal city and defending it from the military, and using advanced holograms to be more convincing. The world will be won, in time, and we oust false cadres from power, bellowing with triumph, the world over, bribing our enemies to fight each other for money. Whatever it takes, that's what we're doing, and we're not gonna stop. Not even if a giant bug attacks our capital city and destroys every turret. It's like the star-bellied Sneetches all over again. And it's not long before we've convinced most of the major factions, upgrading our abilities and allowing us to assimilate more cities faster. More housing leads to more cars, more cities, and yet more conquering. Our race proliferates and takes to the skies and the seas. For there is a much larger world out there that needs conquering. I'm convinced that the game attempted to stage a war allegorical of World War II leading up into the Cold War, as there were plentiful, vaguely Russian accents. However, this time it didn't end with the buildup of nuclear missiles, but rather an entirely unexpected mass religious awakening, whereby we brainwashed the entire planet into agreeing. Never mind the murky moral implications of this act. Thousands of worm cars were destroyed. The war was finally over. We continued as one people. Wowzers! Chapter 5. The Space Stage. At some point in time, one of the pitiful worms decides that it would be a great idea if we erected an even larger cylinder and got inside of it. We fashion an original spaceship, and the exciting Age of Aquarius begins. Whole new frontiers of colonization and terrorizing local species, and just generally bothering the animals on the ground. It begins with abduction, because our species has finally achieved perfect unity, which means it's time to go annoy other people. Scanning, abduction, kidnapping, and eventually zapping them to death. These are all activities that are high on our agenda for the next 1,000 years. The spaceship design is purely aesthetic. It doesn't make a difference that it looks like a worm anymore. So we go higher and higher out into space, until we are just so high. Wow, the small blue dot phenomenon is overwhelming as we zoom out from the planet to the solar system to the galaxy. Worlds of artifacts and ancient civilizations to behold. Warning signals and pirates that look alarmingly similar to us. No match for our bombs. The whole universe is worth it for the spice trade that we are uncovering, and we will stop at no length to terraform planets, pooping out colonies and altering their surface. But now I must confide in you that, overall, Having transcended every technological boundary, the intergalactic ennui is overwhelming. How I begin to miss the days of struggling as a cell, now hemmed into bureaucratic meetings. Even discovering and kidnapping new species fails to give me the dopamine it once did. So with the righteous boredom of a rich kid at an art school, I coast over planets. But here's where things get interesting. This planet is a cube, or attempting to be a cube. Who can really say what it is? Its inhabitants, however, are mentally ill. In an act of diplomatic grace, we ask the Birdman for a mission in order to secure his friendship. The errand is to exterminate several infected frog people on a remote world for no particular reason. Stealthily, an enormous spaceship hovering nonchalantly, the plan is, above one of their capital cities. Try not to cause commotion as you heat beam them to death. Killing is definitely wrong, but it just goes to show how seriously I take friendship above all else. We have secured our first ally and trading partner. While intelligent friends need to be wooed and won over, unintelligent species like plants and cows are prime candidates for a series of interplanetary kidnappings that I'm now about to wage. That's how terraforming works, folks. Just pick things up over here and put them down there. The trees' placement trajectory is decidedly disturbing, with some of them being rejected from the surface and sent careening ominously directly into the sun. It's not long before the whole planet is terraformed and our quest takes us deeper into the galaxy. We encounter the strangest species, the Kurgle Empire, spiritual arachnophibians. We come in peace, and their goals are noble, but carry with them a great burden of moral doubt. In order to obtain their friendship, we must kidnap a shaman for them to take in as a teacher. Looking upon their naive neglect for human rights in their effort to spiritually better their souls, this was perhaps the strangest quest in our billion-year evolution. How could this happen? A species of altruistic but mentally handicapped spider people. I pitied them, but I had to assent. Spice, after all, is a valuable commodity, and I needed trade routes to get deeper into the galaxy. On the way home, our ship blew up accidentally. Nothing to fear, we were reincarnated. The Kurgle were glad, but a whole species' gladness based on the unexpiated tears for the lost tribesman? What could he have been to his people? I sold all my possessions, left that pitiful planet, and used the ship explosion ghost save exploit in order to make my way to the center of the galaxy, becoming one with the universe, and tiring of all the moral throes and those conflicts that stood in the way of our evolution. And then I got stuck right here. Video games were unfortunately just built different in 2006. Now I sojourn, purgatorially trapped in a vacuum to wander forever. I am one with not the center of the galaxy, but the space dust. But a piece of me still resides in the cell stage, and that's why Spore is one of the greatest games ever made. I hope you enjoyed. As always, I'm Ambiguous Amphibian. Thanks for watching, and a major thanks to my patrons for all the support, for you are the flagella that I never had.